Well, I went to my very first Flesh and Blood Armory event. Here's what happened. Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I know I am. My name is Ashen Wings, and if any of you got to see me at the Addison, Illinois Min-Max Games, then thank you for coming by. I don't remember if any of you ever checked out the channel, but if you did, here I am, and you'll be seeing me probably just about every Wednesday. So, speaking of that really brings the tone of the video, right? You'll see me every Wednesday. So let's just get into the TLDR, right? I had a fantastic time. Okay, I had a great time at my first Armory. I went 0-4, so I lost a lot, but I did learn, and that was important. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a rundown of what my weekend was like there, and kind of give you guys an idea of what the Flesh and Blood community felt like to me. So, I'm a new player to Flesh and Blood, as most of you may know, and I had actually just gotten a buddy of mine into Flesh and Blood as well. And him and I were talking about, trying to get together to play so I could teach him to play, and our schedules just kind of conflicted a little bit, but I found the time to where I was going to go to the Armory event that was happening just this last Saturday. So, I went ahead and told him about it and let him know. He had the Friday off beforehand and thought, oh, well, you know what? Maybe I'll come with, right? I'm going to go check out the place Friday. You can come in Saturday and we can hang out Saturday and we can just, play games or whatever. But before that weekend, my girlfriend and I went to Min-Max Games in Addison, Illinois. And while we were there, we drove like 45 minutes to this place. And I was happy to see that the Flesh and Blood turnout for that Wednesday was actually pretty good. There were quite a few people there playing in Classic Constructed. People were having a great old time. And I go up to the attendant at the time and let him know that I was brand new to Flesh and Blood and just figured I'd come check out the place since it's the closest LGS to my house that runs Flesh and Blood events. So, with that being the case, they were kind enough to give me 2 free packs of unlimited product. So anything I wanted that was in unlimited. And that was crazy. Okay, this was before Dynasty. I may have picked up some Dynasty if I was if that happened afterwards. But after buying a playmat and some sleeves and all that junk, I was very happy already, right? A first taste is free kind of deal was going on over at Min-Max, and I was very happy about it. It is a great way to promote something like your game. James White and just about everybody who supports the game wants people to have the cards in their hands to be able to really get a taste of what it is to be playing Flesh and Blood. So this is a great way to do it. So fast forward, my buddy goes in on Friday to go get a Uprising deck of Fi. He really wants to play Fi. And he is also terrified of the fact that he is new to the game. And lo and behold, without him even needing to ask, 2 of the people who were there Friday, I was not there Friday with him, 2 of the people who were there on Friday decided to sit him down and actually play Flesh and Blood with him. I mean, truly give him the ropes. They taught him everything that he needed to know about playing Fi, everything he needed to know about the general concept of the game, pitching, the banish zone, resources, go again. I mean, they really taught him. And I got a phone call after they were done teaching him from him, and he was ecstatic. He was like, these guys, they taught me everything, right? They really sat me down and like spoon-fed me Fi and really taught me how to play the deck, where to do what things, and like how to best combo them. And I was, already at that point, this is like my best friend of like, I think about 14, 15 years. So it was very nice because he was very scared that he would not be accepted because he was new. And lo and behold, the Flesh and Blood community accepted him with open arms, and that was amazing. So Saturday comes around, and my buddy and I, we show up at the LGS, and while we're there, it's about 2:00, and the Armory event does not start until 6:30. So we sit there and we jam games of Blitz for 4 hours, right? And we just kind of get used to the idea. I'm getting used to actually playing people on a more regular basis. I'm playing Dromai for the record, and he's playing Fi. So we're going back and forth. He's learning the combos, and he's winning games. I'm winning games. It was a very, interesting thing. And we were getting our stuff together, and we're just kind of learning. And I go, okay, it's time for me to go register for the tournament. And my buddy, who only owns a Blitz deck, was not going to enter the tournament because it was Classic Constructed. But I had a Classic Constructed Dromai-ish setup. It was, by all means, in the format of Classic Constructed. It just was not a very well-optimized deck. Very budget. I was running no legendary equipments. I had Mage Master's boots, but no Tome of Findals. I had only 2 Miragai instead of 3, strictly because I had ordered Miragai and Tome of Findals, and they never showed up. And I went to go to the LGS to attempt to purchase them instead, and the LGS's stock was all wrapped up in a pallet and not able to be looked through yet until sometime next week. So, unfortunately, that meant that I was not able to pick up those singles. So I was dealing with a bit of a handicap, if you would. But overall, right, again, I went 0-4. I lost all of my games. My first game was my quickest, but also was my most educational. It was actually against the person who would go to win the Armory that night. He had went ahead and played Viserai. And I learned a lot about Viserai. I learned a lot about Rune Chants and Rune Blades. I didn't know a whole lot about that whole thing. And, man, Viserai aggro rocks face. That is an insane deck. I couldn't help but know that when I saw all these people talking in their groups, their little cliques, their friends, that I knew something was going to be a constant during this tournament. And that was going to be that I was going to be very undergeared in regards to them. I'm playing a very budget, under like $50 Dromai deck. And I think just about everybody there, at least 75 to 80% of the players, maybe even more, were all playing with cold foil legendary equipment of the sort. And it was disheartening at first because it's almost like going in knowing you're going to lose. You hear all these people talk about how it's okay, right? You don't need legendary equipment in order for you to be good or for you to win, but it does help, right? That's just usually how that goes, right? But I'm going to be entirely honest. Out of all 4 of my games, there was one thing that I learned from everybody who had talked to me about how I could better my deck as a Dromai player. And every single one of them said, you should buy a Flamescale Furnace, a $90 legendary chess piece. And it's strictly because it allows for me to generate more ash as time went on. So, very sure that I'm going to be able to be doing that, hopefully sometime after I pay all of my bills in December. I may be able to get one of my own. But more importantly, I had a lot of fun learning about things like when to quell, what quell blocks, talking about when to Hope Merchant's Hood. It was crazy to learn all this stuff, and more importantly, the Viserai player did so well in teaching me how to play Viserai while also beating my butt with Viserai. It wasn't I'm doing this combo, this combo, this combo, this combo. Okay, you take X damage. Don't ask questions. It was I'm going to explain this paragraph of text to you, and I'll show you step by step what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and then I will apply these things as they happen. It was very, very helpful, and I learned a lot. I was able to get 2 damage off on him. Good stuff for me. But overall, it was a very fun learning experience going against that Viserai. My next opponent was an Azalea, which I almost beat, but unfortunately, due to Dominate being probably my biggest downfall here, and also me getting cocky and taking more hits than I should have with a board full of dragons, I did end up losing to that. They were at 5 health. I was at 1 health, and they got the Dominate off on me. So that was unfortunate. But that was fun. And I learned that Dromai is actually the best matchup against Azalea. I apparently, as a Dromai player, I just swarmed the board so fast that Azalea players can't keep up with that. So that's at least good to know for next time. Then my third round was an Oldhim. I learned how it was to play against an Oldhim, and boy howdy, that was the longest match I've ever been in my life. Of course, the player piloting the Oldhim was again very grateful and very helpful in teaching me kind of how they're playing. But it was pretty straightforward. It was, I'm going to attack you with my hammer, and then if I do, you get a frostbite. And then every time you attack with one of your dragons, I'm going to pop it using the, 6 illusionist ability with, Phantasm, destroying it, right? So that was a long match, and I got him down to like 24 life, I think, overall. But at the end of the day, he rocked me pretty hard there towards the end. So that was a fun match, but it definitely took a long time, and it realized what the long game could be like in terms of that. I don't think we dealt damage to one another for like 10 turns, which was insane to me, considering my first match was like hyper aggro and I died, and the second match was Dominate heavy, and I was definitely taking damage throughout the matter of the fight. My fourth matchup was against another Azalea, and again, right, I thought I had it. I was doing pretty well. My starting hand was not too fantastic, and my opponent was able to get a lot of these Dominates and Sleeps and stuff off to be able to kind of paralyze me in a way and not allow me to go off in the way that I would normally be able to. But I had fun going against them too, and they had just come back to the game, maybe like, they were gone for like 6 months, and they just returned back from the game, so they were just kind of getting back into it too and remembering when to do what and how. It was great, but I unfortunately lost to them too, and it was, again, a big learning experience. A lot of the people that won pack prizes ended up giving away their rares and commons, so I got to go home with a little bit of loot at the end of the day, even though I lost a lot. I got 2 promo cards, 1 LSS stamped card from Worlds, and one of the new promo ninja cards from Dynasty, just for playing. And it was really cool. I had a fantastic time. I was introduced to a bunch of people. I was introduced to a Chicagoland LGS hangout Discord. So now I have access to this whole Discord of people who they say they're going to meet up where and when they're going to play. And it seems like a very competitive scene. And overall, everybody was very helpful. And I know that it's a weird place because, and I'm going to leave my deck list down below because I want you guys to see how like bad it was essentially. But I genuinely had a lot of fun. And normally, if I went 0-2 in a tournament, I would drop and leave. But the only way I'm going to get better at Flesh and Blood is by continuing to play and continuing to go against players who are, by probably a lot of means, better than me. But I'm going to continue to learn, continue to build my deck up, hopefully have the cards that I really want to use in the future, maybe switch up my strategy for my deck compared to what it was previously, and really focus on what is going to make the deck kind of excel better than it is right now. I did have, of course, all 4 of my opponents tell me that if I had Flamescale Furnace, everything about my deck would have practically been autopilot, and the deck would have gone way, way, way faster comparatively. Now, I like and don't like that answer, but I understand the answer, and I think that's the bigger thing here. I was going against a hyper-competitive scene of players, and there is no way that you're going to get into the top 8 of a calling, let alone the top 8 of a world championship, with a deep blue as your chess piece. I just don't think it's going to happen. If it is, right, then, it's a very situational thing. Somebody out there with a stronger mind than mine right now would probably know when and where to use something like that. But unfortunately, I'm not that person. I didn't even know how Quell worked. So this is truly a learning experience. And more importantly, I'm going to be going back there every Wednesday to continuously try and, really push myself to be a better player. I may or may not enter until I have a Flamescale Furnace. And it by no means means that you need to be dropping a lot of money in order to be a good player, right? It's just that I see what my deck's potential could be with a Flamescale Furnace, and I'm not going to deny the fact that it is a fantastic piece of equipment, because it is. You get to pitch for resources, and you get to block for 3. Pretty much, it's well worth it. And there's just no reason to not get it. You know what I mean? But Crown of Providence, maybe a little bit further on down the line. I think I'll use Crown of Reflection for right now. But that was my experience. I had such a fantastic time. I never felt like I couldn't ask questions. I never felt like I was, a loser, right? I mean, you go 0-4 in a tournament, and most people who are not of kind of like an open mind and ready to learn would go, I'm never coming back here again. This scene is too difficult to play against. I'm not going to bother. But there are a lot of people here. And it was even more funny because we showed up, or at least I showed up, during the Brothers War pre-release for Magic the Gathering. And I think there were more people there for the Armory later on that night than there were there for the pre-release for the Brothers War, which is saying something. So, who's to say? But I'm very excited to continue to build with my decks, and I'm excited to continue to learn more and more about Flesh and Blood. And this was my very first experience with Flesh and Blood at a tournament level. It was my first experience at an LGS that ran Flesh and Blood events. And it was my first time really getting to talk to the Flesh and Blood community in person and talk about the good and the bad and the things that could work. I mean, that Viserai player, I'm not going to give him his name because I don't want to just blow him up. But this man taught me a lot about the meta within the 10 minutes after our round that we were sitting at the table. And it meant a lot. And I hope to continue to have awesome conversations with these people. I hope to continue to meet with them and play against them and maybe even become friends with them. And who knows, right? Maybe we'll form some kind of team as the days go on. But let me know in the comments down below if you've had any similar experiences, or maybe you've had a different experience and it's been bad, right? I can't say that everything in Flesh and Blood had to have been good. I'm sure there is someone out there who's an elitist who will look down upon new players, but I would like to imagine that there's a lot less of those than there are good people. There's always seems to be a fantastic turnout for good people for Flesh and Blood, and that really does mean a lot. So let me know in the comments down below what your first impressions of the competitive scene for Flesh and Blood was like, or maybe just your first impressions of going to an LGS for Flesh and Blood, seeing what the community was like. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. We are getting real close to 800 subscribers and even closer to 1,000. So thank you all so much for continuing to support me on my journey through this cardboard world. And I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.